You seem to still be up there somewhere.
Maybe I am. There are flying saucers.
Supposing they're Martians or something in there.
Hey guys, welcome back to another Weird Wednesday. I'm Asherz, and this is...
Tobias.
Tobias, before I ask you how your weekend was, I lost my train of thought. I had something I was going to say. You know what? That's my fault. Let's not deviate from the plan. How was your weekend?
Wow. 30 seconds in and we are already nailing it. This is going to be a good one. I can tell.
What happens when you take a week off? You just fuck it all up.
Oh, it's true. Okay. So how was my weekend? My weekend, I was sick as a dog, actually. I've had the worst cold since last Monday. So if I sound weird, that's why. It's because my head is full of mucus, just entirely full, to the point where I think it's pushed some brains out. So, yeah, just get ready for that. Prepare yourself. So yeah, I really didn't do much. I have just been resting. Nothing exciting to report at all. So here's an opportunity for you to tell us how great your weekend was.
Oh, geez. I've had some weekends, let me tell you, sir. I have definitely been doing all of the Halloweening. I am a Halloweener, okay? That's
You are a
this is true.
Halloweener.
I am. We finished our scavenger hunt, which I know I talked to you guys last time. Locally, people decorate their houses all big and crazy. And if you follow me on social media, and you probably do, and if you don't, why? People go all out decorating, and they have like a little scavenger hunt that you can complete, and for potential prizes. Anyway, we finished that off Friday evening, which was probably, honestly, the best night that we had with the scavenger hunt. Not to say that the other houses were lame or anything, but like, man, we really saw some huge setups, and it's just fucking insane what people do in their own front yard. Good for them. I wish I had a yard to do things like that. Well, I guess I say that, but honestly, I spent a good chunk of time talking to one of the people who set it up, and she said it takes like 2 months to like get it out every year, like just to set it up. And I'm like, yeah,
Wow.
I bet it's insane. you know. So normally people that do like the big decorations, they have to pick one. It's either Halloween or it's Christmas, like, and that's because there's just no way otherwise. But super neat there. And then of course Saturday I had my annual Halloween party, which I almost didn't do this year, and I'm relieved that I did. Halloween parties are they're kind of becoming a thing of the past. I'll be honest with you. I don't think I have been invited to a Halloween party in like, God, probably almost 10 years. Nobody does
Yeah,
them
I can't
anymore.
remember the last time I would have been.
Yeah, nobody has a Halloween party. And so I went for it. I said, you know what? Fuck it, I'm going to do it. It's been a very interesting venture with my social life in general. And I've kind of been learning a lot about socializing in the 2020s.
Okay.
Come to find out, we are in a loneliness epidemic. People in their 20s and 30s are lonelier than the elderly are now.
Oof.
And yeah, people just aren't getting together anymore. And so, I kind of, I feel that. I know a lot of people feel that. So I've kind of taken it upon myself to, be the reason to get together. And so anyway, that reasoning this time came out in the form of a Halloween party. And it was great. There was lots of titties, lots of titties,
Okay.
probably more titties at my house on that great Saturday night than anywhere else in the whole Miami Valley. So it's a good time.
Very good. Okay.
So, and then I acquired a kitten the very next day. So it's been very busy around my area. So
That all sounds just lovely, honestly.
it is. It is. Yeah.
It's interesting you mentioned that loneliness epidemic because I think we've all sort of noticed it in some way, right? I know you and I have talked about this before. At a certain point, it just feels like people stop hanging out. Like you get to a certain age, and all of a sudden, you look around and you wonder, where did all of my friends go? Like at one point I had friends, and now, I don't, or I don't seem to, or I certainly don't seem to have as many. Um, and it's just funny how that works, right?
Yeah.
Like, people, I understand people get busy. I get busy. I'm always busy. I know you're always busy too. I'm sure that's true for everybody, but I still make time for certain things. Like, I've got a gaming club, like a tabletop gaming club that I go to every week. I didn't go last week because I was sick, but I'll be there this week. And we've got some friends, well, like the Benedicts, like Adam Benedict, from Pine Barrens Institute, like him and his wife Emily and I will try to get together with them at least once a month, like if we can swing it, and they're always great about that too, trying to make time to hang out. But then I have so many other friends that just kind of don't, and some, and I am going somewhere here, trust me. One thing I've never really considered is the idea that they feel trapped and they're lonely, but they don't know what to do about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, from our perspective, we see this happening and we go, oh, I guess they just don't want to hang out anymore. And from their perspective, I bet at least sometimes they're going, I'm so busy with work and family and all of this other stuff, all of these obligations, that I never get to hang out with my friends, and I'm miserable about it.
Yeah.
I don't know what the solution is there, but I think recognizing that at least, like, is a start, right? It gets the conversation going.
Well, and I think that then, like, you get so busy and you get stuck in this trap of being busy. And then when you kind of have a moment, you're like, how the fuck do I even reach out to these people? Like, hey, I haven't seen you in, it's been a year. It's been 2 years.
Yeah.
What do you say to somebody like that? Let me tell you what you say. Hey, was thinking about you. Love to catch up sometime. That's it. That's all it takes. And they might
Genius.
not answer. They might not respond. But you know what? If you don't extend that olive branch a little bit, then I mean, you're just going to continue to sit in your perpetual loneliness and wondering what's wrong with you or what you did wrong, or
Very true.
don't be afraid to be the person that reaches out. And so that's what I have been actively doing. I've been actively reaching out to people, and I think it weirds some people out sometimes because people aren't used to that anymore. But I had a really good turnout at my party, and I had conversations with people who were like, wow, thanks so much for inviting me. Like, I really needed this, nobody, I don't go anywhere anymore. I don't do anything. And it really impacted them, and they were excited to hear that, I intend to go round two and have a Christmas party, my first ever Christmas party this year. So,
I love that for you.
yeah, thank
And
you.
themed parties are the way to go. The reason that I see as many people as I do is because Emily loves a themed party.
Yeah.
And so we will have like a Kentucky Derby party every year.
Hmm.
We'll do holiday get-togethers. We've started a tradition, like, at this point, where like our New Year's is us hanging out with the Benedicts, and we like do a white elephant Christmas exchange, which really is just Ab and I seeing like how weird of a gift we can find for the other person, but it's fun, and
Yeah.
like it's an excuse to see our friends. And you know if you're ever thinking about whether or not you should just go for it and go over the top with a fun party, even if it's only going to be a few people, always, always go overboard. Like, do more than you need to do, because it makes it so much more fun. Like, get the party hats, right? Like, dress up, get all of the hors d'oeuvres and the specialty drinks and everything. Make it special.
Yeah.
Make it special, and then it will be special, and it's just so much more fun.
Oh yeah, definitely. And my fear with doing the Halloween party was that I was going to do it. I was going to invite people and then nobody was going to show up. But what
Mm.
was going to be my option otherwise? I wasn't going to invite anybody over and still I'd be sitting at my house alone. with all
Yeah.
my sweet Halloween decorations with nobody here to appreciate it? Fuck that.
Yeah.
So, what's the worst that can happen? People say no. Okay, that's fine. Still gonna bother them the next time I have a party.
Absolutely. And it worked out for you. So you're
It
clearly
did.
doing something right. So kudos to you. And for everybody else out there, throw a damn party.
Throw a party. Throw a party. Oh, perfect timing. That just was perfectly timed. Hey, that's okay. I do have news. I have some news. I have some news from last week's news. So I'm just gonna borrow from that. And
Okay, go for it. And then I've got a little bit of news to talk about myself.
okay, wonderful. So okay, what's the first one I'm gonna go with? I got two newses here. Let's go with these UFO sightings over Indiana. I know Tobias, I sent you a couple of videos here. So since October 7th, different areas of Indiana have had like a string of UFO sightings and different types of UFOs at that. As I showed you, just kind of some examples of what had been going on in the different areas of where these UFOs were kind of taking place along just randomly in Indiana. People are reporting these all over. And I mean, at this point in time, you can get on YouTube and type in Indiana UFO, and you will see very recent videos from multiple witnesses, hundreds of UFO reports coming out of that area. Um, Tobias, what did you think about the videos that I sent you? I think I sent you two of them. I know it's been
Yeah,
probably
I
a
mean,
week since you
I'm
watched them, but
it has. I'm refreshing my
sure.
memory right now. It's very sort of basic lights in the sky kind of
Yeah.
stuff. One thing when you're watching these videos to always remember is that the movement that you're seeing might not be the object because these are always being filmed by cell phones with no tripod. And so there's no stabilization at all. And so what I'm seeing here um, is the objects not really moving all that much themselves, but any movement or any apparent movement, easily could have been caused by the movement of the camera. Now, in one of those where the objects sort of blink out, like they're there and then they're just suddenly gone. That adds an element of mystery, but I mean, there are things that do that. Flares do that. You could have a number of illuminated objects that could suddenly disappear that are perfectly, mundane. So I don't know. I mean, what are people saying?
Well, flares is definitely a good explanation, at least for the one. I know that I sent you two. It looks like the first one was from Kokomo. That one is definitely looks more like that could potentially be flares, right? It could be
Mhm.
skydivers. It could be military. We don't really know, but it looks man-made. And then the second one I sent you was from Fort Wayne, Indiana, which was significantly different from the other one. That one kind of looks more classic light in the sky UFO with the weird oscillating light. Not oscillating lights, but it's definitely changing its light shade or its light color pretty consistently. So of course there's anywhere from Project Bluebeam to genuine UFO invasion to mysterious military projects. It really just depends on, I think, who you ask and what their personal belief is in this kind of stuff. But they do seem to be occurring. They've probably slowed down a little bit. They picked up a little bit of steam in the media, so of course you know how that goes, and which I'm sure we'll
Oh
probably
yeah.
talk about a little bit. Things happen in the media, and you get a lot of reports all of a sudden. Um, so I'm curious to see what continues or what comes of this going forward.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to keep an eye on it. One thing I will say, because of the cameras in these cell phones, they're not made to capture aerial objects, obviously, and so when you see a zoomed in image of something like a light in the sky, and it maybe looks like it's changing colors or it's changing shape. I mean, some of that could just be due to the shittiness of the camera
Sure.
that it's being filmed on. So it's just, I'm not saying that has to be the case all the time. I know I am actively anti fun, but it is something that people need to be more aware of. so they stop freaking out about shitty Facebook videos all the time.
Oh yeah, definitely. And it's hard to kind of gauge these situations. I haven't personally talked to any of the witnesses. I know a lot of the talk is actually going on in everybody's favorite reliable source on Reddit. But it's happening in like Reddit local communities. It's not really happening in like the UFO subreddits or anything like that. Like it's
Sure.
happening, in that area. People are like, oh, did you see that? Like kind of like the big booms that we all read about in our local neighborhood groups. you
Right,
know,
right.
so it's been interesting to watch. But I agree with you. It doesn't necessarily mean anything. Yeah, it's not a smoking gun of UFO evidence or anything like that. But we'll see what happens, right? We'll see if it continues.
Oh, for
Who
sure.
knows?
Yeah, still very interesting.
I can tell you what it's definitely not. It's definitely not Project Bluebeam. So there's that.
Yeah, I would agree that it's definitely not Project Bluebeam.
So on to the next one here. We've got some bona fide, genuine high strangeness. This is a classic story. We've all heard it before, folks. Mystery blobs wash ashore along the Newfoundland beach.
Huh.
So these mystery blobs, people have been reporting. Well, guess what? Also in mostly a Facebook group, which is Beachcombers of Newfoundland and Labrador, where people are finding these white slimy blobs that are just all up and down the shoreline. As a matter of fact, one resident, it looks like his name's Dave McGrath, when he encountered the blobs, he went and informed the Coast Guard that was there. And they kind of had a conversation, and the Coast Guard was telling him, "Oh yeah, it stretches for about 28 miles. These weird blobs." Of course, the blobs themselves. This isn't like it's not like the giant whale blubber blob. Like these are like smaller blobs. And again, with a
So,
pretty consistent white slimy texture. One of the people, Philip Grace, said that they are like it
uh,
has like a dough-like consistency.
ew.
Yeah. McGrath said that he's lived there for 67 years and he's never seen anything like this. And I maybe it's just me. I trust Dave. I trust Daves of the world.
I
Uh,
don't.
m- maybe I shouldn't. Um, Allegedly, people are saying that these blobs are undergoing testing by quote unquote scientists. And of course, I
Oh,
haven't
good.
seen results of what these scientists are saying. No clue what kind of scientists they are. But that's where we're at right now. So, mystery blobs.
Interesting stuff. I mean that it usually, and by usually I mean all the time, like every single time, ends up being something like a decomposing whale carcass or something. Like you mentioned, bits of whale blubber or fat
Yeah.
washing ashore. I see no reason why this time should be any different, but who knows? Um, I'll tell you what though. I do believe Dave when he says that he's never seen anything like it before. And I think that is an honest assessment of his experience and also not proof of anything. Because if it's a rare phenomenon, then he wouldn't have seen it before. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't have some kind of prosaic explanation, like decomposing marine life. I would be more concerned if they're seeing more of this, that something like, pollution or rising ocean temps or something
Mhm.
is leading to some kind of die off. Because boy, would that be terrible, and also very not surprising given all of the wonderful news we're constantly hearing about climate change.
Just motions to the entire world. Yes, given all of
Right.
this. No, completely
Motions
understand.
to planet on fire around him. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, there likely is some type of explanation. I'm excited to figure out what that is. I know people have speculated, different things that they think it could be. That's fine. Science will tell us what it is. I am going to choose to believe right now that it's star jelly because blobs.
Oh yeah. That is
Mhm.
part of their breeding process.
It is. Yeah.
Their
So,
complicated breeding process. They have to deliver their inseminated jelly into the Earth's ocean
yeah.
so it can wash ashore and attach itself to the face of some unsuspecting local, and then deposit the eggs into that person's chest cavity where they can burst forth later in the miracle of life.
That's exactly how it happens every time,
Yeah.
So,
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
and then
Nature
the
is a
government
miracle.
comes and they clean up the debris, the host, right, of the star jelly creatures, I guess. We never hear about it. So if we don't get the results from the scientists that are testing, that's why we know that it's because it was clearly that. So
Yeah, absolutely. You heard it here first. Watch out,
Mm,
people.
watch out, or don't, I guess, because there's nothing to watch for because it's a cover up. So
That's true. Just don't go sticking your face in any gross ocean jelly.
well, and that's also why there were mass UFOs over Indiana. See what I did there? They're both
It all just
connected.
makes sense.
Exactly.
Okay.
So
Well, we've solved that mystery. Are you ready for another mystery?
let's hear it. Let's hear some mysteries.
Yeah. This is an unsolved mystery
Oh.
because it comes from Unsolved Mysteries. After I'm not proud of that, but I did it. Um, After that Mothman episode aired, people started sending their experiences into Unsolved Mysteries, and the producers there very helpfully compiled them and put them into a bunch of PDFs, which they then sent to Lon and I. And we've since started going through them and have been contacting some witnesses. And so this report comes from one such witness. So this guy, Ryan, initially sent his report into Unsolved Mysteries, after which Lon and I both separately were able to interview him. So in his report, he claims to have seen a winged humanoid from the window of his fourth floor Chicago apartment. So I'm going to read his very short initial report that he sent to Unsolved Mysteries first, and then we'll get into the conversation a little bit. He wrote, OMG, I have seen Mothman 7 times. I live at address redacted on the 4th floor, and my bedroom window looks over at the big black building on Lake Michigan. My roommate has called me crazy every time I told him I thought it was an alien with wings. Okay. So I ended up talking to this guy on the telephone. He was perfectly nice. Seemed like a relatively normal, polite person. And he told me a story that was a little different than what that Unsolved Mysteries report said. So when I talked to Ryan, he told me that he had only seen Mothman once. And when I asked him about that discrepancy, he said that it must just be a typo. I don't. Okay, so we'll take that at face value, right?
Hmm.
Maybe it is. All right. So moving on. His sighting, he told me, came one night in early July of this year. So early July 2024. He's in bed. He goes to bed early because he works early. And so he went to bed at 8:00. Around 8:30, he looks out his window and he sees these 2 bright, sort of laser-like red lights. And he's looking at them, trying to figure out exactly what they are. And as he's doing that, he recognizes the silhouette of this figure standing on the ledge, and the lights are where the eyes would be on this silhouette of a humanoid figure. And so then, as he's trying to figure out what that is, he says that this thing spreads its wings, and at that point, like it spreads its wings, jumps off. He gets so frightened by that he runs out of his bedroom, finds his roommate, and tells him that he just saw this alien with wings. He's calling it an alien with wings because at this point, he says he had never heard of Mothman. So this is early July, end of July, the episode airs, and he said he was watching television in bed, and Unsolved Mysteries came on, and he watched the Mothman episode. And he said, "Oh wow, that's that's what I saw. At which point he decided to reach out about it. I mean, that's long story short. Like, that's basically it, you know. It's tough because if you were to come to me and tell me about the initial report and then tell me about the conflicting testimony, that would be a pretty big red flag. But at the same time, I'm not necessarily seeing more evidence of any hoax or what this person might be getting out of it. So that might change later, you know, like if he decides to, I don't know, try to sell this story or something somehow. But didn't ask me for money. And when I talked to him, seemed like a very normal, just polite person, you know, like excited to talk about their story, but not like those, okay, not like the young adults, Phil, you know, like, remember them, they were up on that rooftop and they were like filming their cookout and they saw a bird or something, and so they, you know, they made this jokey video about it and sent it in, and they were like, no, we're totally serious, it was Mothman. I didn't get that vibe from him. So it's tough. Like, I'm somewhere between, you know, I think there's room for doubt and belief at this point, right? Like, it's just a weird situation.
I think that the initial report is what makes it weird, because he's like, oh, well, yeah, I saw it 7 times. That's a typo. So you were going to say I saw it 1 times? You know, it's 7 and 1 are very far away from the keyboard there, bud.
Well, they're super far away, and that's not all, because the last sentence of that is, my roommate has called me crazy every time I told him I thought it was an alien with wings. Every time? So the one time you told him is every time?
Every time, yeah. So it's a little suspicious, and you know, but I can't say the guy didn't see it, right? I mean, I wasn't fucking there. What's the black building at Lake Michigan?
Oh, sure. So it's actually it's this condo building. It's called Park Tower.
Okay,
Yeah, like anybody can look it up. There's a photograph of it taken from his bedroom window that's in this article I wrote. You know, and I feel bad because I don't want to trash talk this guy or accuse him of anything. But it is a pretty severe discrepancy. And if it was just something like, you know, oh, I was excited to write out my experience for Unsolved Mysteries, and you know, so I did it kind of jokingly and was like, oh, I saw Mothman 7 times, but really you only saw him once. That's fine. Just tell me that, you know?
Yeah, right. You know, and right, I agree. You know, could he have seen it at least the 1 time? Oh, he could have seen it 7 times, I suppose. Um,
Well, he definitely didn't. At least he said he didn't, because I
right.
asked him specifically. He was like, no, I only saw it 1 time. And
Did
that's another thing. If you were going to lie about it, why would you change your story and then stick to it? Why not just be like, oh, yeah, I saw it a bunch of times?
Yeah, I mean, that's the part that hurts, you know, when you are a witness. I mean, who knows? Maybe he wrote in just to kind of maybe get the attention, right? If he says he saw it 7 times, well, maybe then he's got a better chance at actually reaching you, you know, or somebody who would be able to talk to him about his one encounter. You know, that makes sense. But you know, as if you're gonna relay your stories, you should share your stories with people, folks. But the second that you're caught in a lie, this is what happens.
Right.
Like
Yeah,
it hurts you.
it does. It does. And it is a damn shame.
Yeah.
So, because otherwise, if I had only spoken to him and I didn't have this Unsolved Mysteries testimony that he had sent in, it on the surface would seem like a very credible report, because he seems like a very credible person.
Yeah.
But because of this discrepancy, all of a sudden the whole thing is cast into doubt.
And I think it's very important to share stuff like that too for people. I think it's a little inside baseball, right? For people to kind of see, how this stuff kind of plays out. Why did he describe it as an alien with wings?
Well, because he said he had never heard of Mothman before, and that was the first thing that occurred to him.
Like it looked
So,
like a gray?
oh no, I think just like because it was like a weird looking thing. He
Hmm,
was just like, "Oh, it's an alien." Because I think the connection was made because he related the red light to like a UFO.
okay.
Um and then that led him to alien, and then alien with wings. Basically. That's how we got there as far as I know.
Because I've never heard anybody refer to these winged humanoids like that. That's interesting. So I was just curious if there was something about the appearance that made him think alien. Because most people the appearance they demon or angels sometimes, right? Depending on who you are.
Right.
A lot of different things. I've never heard him say alien with wings.
Well, here you go.
Oh, wow. I hope you didn't have any more news, Tobias.
I did not. That was it.
I will say I'm excited to hear these reports come in, and I know when I saw Lon post about it, and I texted you, and I was like, "Is this for real?"
Yeah, there's plenty more.
So that'll be we'll see where they go. Has this been the first one that you've talked to, or I mean, I'm sure you have a list, maybe a schedule written out.
Yeah, this is the first chance I've had. It's nothing so organized as that though. We're just kind of going through things and reaching out to anything that sort of sounds promising or is in an active area. So,
Yeah, and you know
um,
how it is. Maybe out of all those, maybe five will actually contact you back, or whatever.
right.
So very interesting. Wow. Well, I guess on with the show. I thought that we could have a little bit of fun here over on Wednesdays. We talk. Would we like fun? I like fun. Tobias, do you like fun?
I have been accused of not liking fun, but I assure you, I am very fun.
Honestly, Tobias, I thought that we were going to talk about that time that Bat Boy converted to from his pagan roots to his Judaism, and all of the guilt that he felt from all of the witchcraft that he conducted over the years. So, I think that we were just both confused by that, and that's okay.
Sure. I mean, these things happen. I was sick, and in my fever-addled mind, I had assumed that we would push the schedule back rather than like skipping the next subject. But either makes sense, and I think wanting to give a subject like witches its due diligence makes sense. And I have been studying Bat Boy for like 30 years,
Yeah.
so I'm always prepared to
Oh yeah.
to talk about Bat Boy.
Oh yeah. He's I mean, he's America's sweetheart, right? Bat Boy. Um, and I think you should all know or be familiar with Bat Boy at this point. But I decided to go ahead and take it upon myself and kind of piece together Bat Boy's story a little bit because it is rather interesting. So first and foremost, what is Bat Boy? So Bat Boy was a creature discovered in a cave in West Virginia in June of 1992 by Dr. Ron Dillon. Dr. Dillon's down there. He said that they discovered Bat Boy. He was about 2 miles underground in that cave. I mean, he was down there. There's some speculation that maybe Bat Boy didn't quite live down there. He may have been pushed down there by somebody. It seems he's got a lot of adversaries. But at the time that Ron had made the discovery, of course, he takes it off to the government lab and they start doing testing on said creature, right? Because they don't know what the hell it is. Bat Boy looked very human in appearance, except it had these really giant eyes. Of course, all the better to see the cave with, right? He's living in total darkness. He had giant ears like satellites, because when you live in total darkness, you do have to rely more on your other, on your other on your other senses in order to accommodate. Um, he was only about 2 feet tall at the time and weighed about 19 pounds. So he was still pretty small, but could still fly at that point.
Sure. There is one
Um,
other detail that I feel like we're leaving out,
sure.
and it's important. It's not maybe Batboy's most notable feature, but it is prominent, and that is the rows of tiny, sharp little teeth that he has.
Oh, yeah.
So, in the many instances of well documented footage of the totally real Batboy, you will always see his mouth agape, just wide open, featuring these vicious, sharp looking teeth. And at first I was like, well, that just doesn't make any sense. Like what a bat teeth look like. And I looked it up, and I'll be damned. Bats have these tiny little pointy razor sharp looking teeth. So Batboy confirmed, I guess. Like it's just, it all makes sense.
Well, he is half human and half bat. We actually know that. We've done DNA testing on Batboy. We do know that he's not the only one. We'll say that first and foremost. He is not the only bat human creature in existence, but he is the most prominent and the most sexy bat creature in existence. But we do know that Batboy's father, who is absent from his life, and we're not going to shit on him for that. How many of us don't have dads? It happens. But his father had to have been either completely a bat himself, or at least a similar bat type creature, a bat hybrid creature. But his mom is very much a human woman, and her name is Susan Boy. So so Boy is Batboy's last name. I did not know that. That was news to me. But
so his first name is Batboy, and his last name is Boyd.
You ever seen the Super Mario Brothers movie? Not the new one, but like
like the old one with Dennis Hopper in it. Yes.
Yeah. And, their last name is Mario, right? It's Mario and Luigi Mario. It's the same thing.
Oh, that movie sucks. All right.
I'm so terrible. People act like it's good. I don't know what's wrong. Just because it's old doesn't mean it's good, guys.
That's
okay?
very, very true. Yeah.
Don't lie to yourselves. It wasn't like the Ninja Turtle movies. Like those were awesome.
Super
Mario
awesome.
Brothers, terrible.
Absolutely, just god awful. But Batboy boy.
Bad Boy
Okay.
Boy. Yep. So, of course, they take Batboy down to the government lab, figure out what the hell they have. The government's really interested in this creature. If they could clone some more of these, like surely they could use these creatures for Project Bluebeam or whatever, world domination.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that, I'm sure.
We will definitely get there. So, of course, they actually chart out Batboy's genealogy. Now, initially, that estimated at that time that they found him in 92 that he was about 10 years old. And the jury's still kind of out there because as time has gone on, he hasn't aged, not a day in his life. And so now we're not really sure how old Batboy is. He, whenever you ask him about it, he's like, "Oh, it's rude to ask a woman how old she is." And we're like, "But we thought you were a boy." And he's like, "It's 2024. It doesn't matter."
That's true.
He's
That's
right.
Pretty close-minded.
Exactly. So, don't ask him his age. It's rude. He thinks it's rude. But according to DNA charting that we have, these creatures have been around at least since the 17th century. I mean, they've been here for a long time. Susan Boy herself is directly connected to some of the people that were on the Mayflower. So
really,
so maybe we should have done this for Thanksgiving, but here we are.
People can re-listen to it at Thanksgiving. That's fine.
They sure can. So of course, Batboy escapes from the government lab. Okay, he's not he's no guinea pig, right? He's a bat boy. And they tried to kind of weigh him down. He had grown a little bit and had gotten up to 37 pounds and 3 feet tall by the time he escaped, which made it difficult. He couldn't fly anymore because science. But he did eventually escape from the lab, and we have kind of played a cat and mouse game with Batboy ever since that day. But before we get on to more of Batboy, we want to talk about his accomplishments, what he's been doing over the years, and of course what he's doing nowadays. Before we get to that point, let's talk about the publication that broke this very important story. Okay, Weekly World News. We've talked about it on this show, right? It's the only reliable, besides the Fortean Society, the only reliable news source out there.
It's true. It's my number one source for weekly news.
That's how we get all of our information here, So they, of course, broke this story, and this catapulted the publication into more serious means. Now, before that point, Weekly World News is actually a sister publication to the National Enquirer. I did not know that, but
that makes a lot of sense.
I can't say I'm surprised. Kind of an interesting origin story there. They created Weekly World News because they were printing they started printing the National Enquirer in color. And they had so much, this part is actually real. They had so much black ink left over that they were like, well, what can we do to kind of keep that black and white format going? And they created Weekly World News. And
that is amazing.
And it started in 1979.
That's so long ago.
It's older than I thought it was. That's for sure. I guess I don't know how old I thought it was, but it was pretty old. But Weekly World News really did get its start in trying to be honest about what it was posting. It posted genuine stories, so they would actually have like their team of people that would take clippings and headlines from other publications and create stories from it. Now, initially, these stories were like, most of them were like extreme feats of people that survived. Some people falling from, 50-story buildings or whatever and living to tell the tale. And
yeah, surviving plane crashes and such.
Right. Extreme news, a lot like, kind of we'll share here on the show from time to time, just bizarre news stories. And, as time kind of went on, and Tobias, I'm sure you can speak to journalism in general, about kind of the things that take place. Some of these headlines and stories just kind of got weirder and weirder. And Weekly World News would then take that story and just kind of run with it on their own, which, good for them for creativity.
Sure. Well, we've seen that throughout the history of journalism, which is why you really need sort of strict ethics to adhere to, because it is very easy to stretch the truth and keep stretching it until it breaks. And then once you're there, you never go back. This is why in the 19th and early 20th century, you get all of these interesting news articles about a variety of fantastical creatures and monsters and whatnot. And you can't really trust any of them, which is too bad, because some of them like represent somebody's actual authentic experience, but they exist in a sea of nonsense that was just invented whole cloth, normally to try to advance tourism in a specific area. Sometimes, though, just for fun. Sometimes towns would have rivalries and want to make fun of each other, or get more attention for their monster than like the next town over. There were a plethora of reasons why journalism hoaxed all these stories back then, but it also means you can't trust any of it, unfortunately. So yeah.
The Jersey Devil being probably the most prominent case of that. Of course, the Jersey Devil is 1,000% real, but anyway.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, just like Batboy, duh.
Right. And I think we showcased it pretty well in, surprisingly, the H.H. Holmes episode, where we talked about how he kind of gained this weird, persona through just the media, and none of that was ever true.
Yeah, which is hilarious because he's just a total fucking knob.
Yeah. No, he
Yeah.
didn't even kill that many people. Like he didn't even have a murder castle. You guys, this wasn't even
Right?
it wasn't even real.
Didn't even
Um,
have a real murder castle. What an
Fucking
idiot.
disappointment. Yeah. So,
Guy sucks.
if you're gonna fucking do it big, man. I mean, just
Yeah, he
saying.
was just like a shitty criminal. Like, ugh.
Right. Mostly a petty criminal. Yeah. Anyway, you can listen to that episode if you want to. Why
Right.
not? Go revisit it. It's a good one. But yeah, I mean, this was definitely something that this has been going on since like the 1800s. That's why we end up with like Bigfoot comes and stole my baby, right? That's where we get those stories from most
Sure.
of the time. And
I was Bigfoot's love slave. Yeah.
right. I mean, we are so far removed from those stories now that there's no way for us to go back and verify or validate those stories at all. But what we do have are journalists who spoke out about this type of stuff happening. And I mean, what's more believable, being Bigfoot's love slave or being a journalist who made shit up all the time? Well, probably the love slave.
Yeah. I mean,
of course.
obviously.
So the Weekly World News, like I said, would take these stories and they would then publish them and then, kind of dress them up a little bit, add a little bit more detail. It's not lying; it's just making it interesting. And they just continue to do that over the years. And they, again, were the only ones on scene during this cave discovery in West Virginia. Of course, Bad Boy would be from West Virginia. Where else? Really? I mean, where else? And they were the first ones to break the story and have been the only ones to keep up with it consistently because, well, the government doesn't want you to know about Bat Boy. It would just fuck everything up if they were like, yeah, we know about him and we've cloned him, right? He joined the war on terrorism and actually helped bring down both Osama bin Laden and Saddam Hussein because he did. And they can't have that, right? They can't have us knowing the truth. So
Obviously. I mean, our entire government is predicated on taking credit for Bat Boy's accomplishments.
Constantly. It constantly happens. So, of course, like I said, Bat Boy did end up kind of joining the military, kind of in an agreement for them to give him a little bit of leniency. Bat Boy kind of comes on the scene and he actually had a really big, he really likes pop culture and like celebrities and stuff. Big fan of a lot of different people. He has met, countless big name people. He's met every living president. Him and Obama, there's pictures of them together hanging out, that was his buddy. But things kind of got a little strange for Bat Boy, a little strained with some of his relationships when he decided to run for president in 2020.
That was a big deal.
It was a big deal. So Bat Boy, decided he's going to go ahead and take on the presidency. Kind of tough because again, he was buddies with both Biden and Trump. He liked them both up until that point. But they had to do like cognitive testing for the presidency, and of course, everybody thought, well, Bat Boy can't. He's not going to pass this. He actually he was actually smarter than both candidates at the time. He did a really impressive job passing the test, but and then he went with his campaign. I mean, I think that was the downfall, is that you're either red or you're blue. Like there's no unified anything. Well, Bat Boy, his campaign slogan was right wing and left wing, and that's just not popular with the people. So he ended up, of course, losing the election, or I should say, it was stolen from him. We all know the truth, right? And he
Sure.
is actually running again now in 2024, and so far, according to the polls, he's way ahead. He's way ahead. So by the time you guys listen to this episode, we might know the results. So it'll be interesting to see.
Well, it's no surprise to me. A guy like Bat Boy should be popular. I mean, have we forgotten so soon how Bat Boy saved the world from the Mayan apocalypse in
Oh, exactly.
2012.
Yeah, that's you know what that's a very important story. Yeah, I mean, and of course, NASA's not going to talk about this, even though they were the ones that funded it. You know, but yeah, no, it was Bat Boy, and I think it was three other astronauts. They shoved into a rocket and
Yeah.
shot him off into um, I can't remember what the planet's called. That was coming for us.
Nibiru.
Nibiru, thank
Yeah, the
you.
Phantom Planet.
You know, it was a very real threat, and I mean, it was hurling towards us, and they put Bat
Totally
Boy
real.
and a couple other astronauts into a rocket. Now, Bat Boy, he had his own separate pod, which they actually launched out of the rocket from space from there, and then he went and shot missiles, at the invisible planet that nobody wanted to know about, and destroyed it
Yeah,
for us.
a nuclear missile saved the
And
whole damn world.
yeah, and where's his thanks? You know, we're not. I mean, we're just gonna act like that didn't happen. Rude.
Seriously, I think that's probably why Taylor Swift was into him.
Oh man. Are we gonna talk? We're gonna talk about the drama between Taylor and Batboy. Oh geez, that was a big thing. So before she got a taste of balls, and I mean football. Yeah, she was into Batboy, and they had that whole scandal. Well, and I think that kind of ruined his campaign also, because they were together, and when those ultrasound pictures surfaced, I mean, that was a problem, right? They were already kind of on the rocks, but now that her assistant released these ultrasound pictures, people are wondering, is Bat Boy going to become a Batman? And of course, Bat Boy denies it. But the ultrasound pictures are out there. If you guys want to go look at them, that's fine. I don't think I'm not sure whatever happened to the baby itself. I'm sure it's around.
One would assume, right?
I've kept it together this long. I'm surprised.
I know. But yes, apparently Taylor Swift, this was a rumor, Taylor Swift was pregnant with Bat Boy's baby.
But he denies the whole thing. He says no kids for me. I've never had any. Now of course Batboy, I don't think he has a very interesting language. So I mean, we have to have a Batboy translator. I tried to get one to come on the show this week and kind of advocate for him. But I think it got lost in translation. So it didn't happen. I didn't know what he was saying. He was just screeching at me. I don't speak Bat Boy. It didn't work out. But that's okay. But yeah, no, Bat Boy has dated a lot of celebrities. I mean, tons of them. He dated Cher at one point. I mean, what an impressive guy. He's he really makes it. He really gets around. So he does just about everything. Nowadays, of course, he is busy with his campaigning in 2024. But a prophecy has been foretold about Batboy being president, and we already know he's actually not going to win the election until 2028. So
Okay.
don't get too upset, right? Don't get too upset this go around. It's not part of the prophecy. But he's definitely
How do we know that?
Because he told us.
Hmm.
That was going to happen. So,
okay.
Because he said that, I mean, of course, after he did save the world, though, he was knighted by Queen Elizabeth. So he did get a little bit of recognition. We don't really hear a lot about news from across the pond. So that's probably why. And then, of course, he was blessed by Pope Francis himself. And I think he himself is actually slated to be the Pope at some point. So.
Wait, hold on. So like they're planning on Batboy being the Pope?
Well, I just think it's kind of foretold, It's just
Is this another one of his prophecies?
yeah, it's another one of the Bad Boy prophecies.
So
You've heard
I'm
of
looking at that Taylor Swift ultrasound right now, and it's pretty convincing.
I mean,
The
right.
resemblance is strong.
I think that he's trying to say that it is fathered by another bat creature.
Ah, boy, yeah. I'm sorry, Bat Boy, but it's not looking good. Uh, if you didn't want a baby, then you know, there are a million different things you could have done other than impregnating the world's most famous pop star.
Right. I mean, don't be
Please
silly.
don't sue
Wrap
us.
your willy. I like the disclaimer there. We didn't say this. This is all coming from Weekly World News.
Oh yeah, I'm
The
not claiming this at all.
No,
They're just reporting the news.
they're right, exactly, and they are clearly the most reliable news source out there. So you know
Obviously.
that's who is responsible for these stories. That's where we get our information from. Now, I did hear that he has had a hand in raising Elvis's grandson. Elvis, him and Elvis were real good buds. Until Elvis, of course, finally died of a heart attack in 1994.
Right.
And so, he kind of made Bat Boy the god grandparent to his grandson. So he's good with kids. It's not like that wouldn't be an issue with Taylor. It's just I think she was stepping out on him with another bat creature.
I mean, that's scandalous. I am sitting here and you can't see my face, but I am shocked to hear this.
All those breakup songs, they're really about Bat Boy. All this time.
I can't imagine treating Earth's greatest hero in such a heartless manner. Who
Yeah,
could do that to our Bat Boy? And also, I've been thinking about it. And is it possible that his first name is Bat, and then his last name is Boy?
no, it's definitely Bat Boy Boy.
Okay. Well, I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
You said it, so it is possible that his first name's Bat. Now, I did watch a news report from when they first captured Bat Boy, and they were calling him Robin, which was really interesting. So I don't know if
Okay.
that was a code name that they gave him, or if maybe Robin Boy is his name. And then they just decided to go with Bat Boy because it was a cutesy nickname. It fits him pretty well, you know. But there is actual video footage of Bat Boy. You can go see it. It's right on YouTube. Look up Bat Boy, you know,
Hmm.
where they talk about his initial discovery and his first escape. Again, it's not his first escape. He has been caught and escaped many, many times. You cannot keep Bat Boy contained. It's just not going to happen. He's not having it.
Who would even try?
Oh, he has led officers on multi-state police police chases, after him. Um he's definitely led a very rich life. He's got a lot going on, and he ended up being the star of his own musical.
That's
How great is
impressive.
that? How great is that? And not just that. Back in, I think it might have been June or July of this year. Netflix is, I guess, making a TV series about about Bat Boy.
Really?
Yeah, yeah,
Huh.
that one's true.
I have not heard that. I will look forward to it though.
So I mean, well, with a man like that, I mean, he's kind of like, I think they based Forrest Gump off of the life of Bat Boy.
That makes sense,
You know what I
actually.
mean? Just kind of everywhere, doing everything. Yeah, it does. It totally makes sense. I believe it. Um, but just to break the facade a little bit, I'm sure you guys know we're not serious. Batboy is probably not real, except he is. Um,
Well,
but
speak for yourself. I am completely serious right now.
let's talk about the impact that Batboy has had and kind of the symbolism that this creature has created. Interestingly enough, Batboy was so popular. Of course, it saved Weekly World News as a publication, and Batboy was not the only reoccurring character of Weekly World News. They definitely had others. I know they had an alien at one point. I think his name was Pilon or something like that, and he dated
Oh
different
yeah,
politicians and people in
just hanging
government.
out with the Clintons all the time. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Him and Bill got into a fist fight over Hillary.
yeah, that was the best. Didn't she have his love child
I
at one
think
point?
so. Yeah.
And that's like the least scandalous thing that's ever happened to the Clintons.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yeah. Right. So I mean, they've definitely had their fair share of characters. But they actually were in trouble with the FBI at one point because people were calling the FBI, telling them to leave Bat Boy alone.
Just leave him alone. It's not that hard, you guys.
They're like, stop chasing him. Just let him be free. Let the Bat Child be free. Which of course, I don't think he's actually a child. I think he says he's a child because he's also a con
Yeah.
artist.
I mean, at a certain point, if you haven't aged in 30 years,
Yeah.
like you're not a child. If you, yeah, he's hit a lot of milestones in his life that we would consider adults. Like by the time you're having he's grown up having sexual relationships, like he's not a child.
No.
He's
No.
30 years old, damn it.
Yeah. So, I mean, but yeah, people have begged the FBI to leave Bat Boy alone. And the FBI was like, you guys need to leave us alone. We are trying to work.
We have serial killers to catch. Like, we don't have time for this.
Missing people,
Right.
This is not a thing. But of course, Weekly World News has come under scrutiny a couple of times. One of the first major controversial takes that Weekly World News had was not a fake story. It was actually, so they posted on their cover, and I guess we didn't touch on that because we just assume you guys know Weekly World News, you would get standing in line at the grocery store where all the magazines were. It was there for everybody to see. I'm sure as kids, we were all like, what is this?
I got it every week. Like, I would go grocery shopping and be like good on purpose so I could get my mom to buy me a Weekly World News.
So they did indulge you because my mom was like, no, that shit's stupid. You can't have it.
They were like $1 or something. Like, yeah. So she
She's-
was like, great, if it'll shut you up. Well, and, it was technically reading, although I loved to read as a kid. So nobody really had to twist my arm to get me to do that.
Yeah, I'm like, what is this? Aliens are invading? What happened? They took over the White House? My mom's like, no, just, you can't. She tried to avoid it, and it just didn't work out for her. That's what happens when you deny your kids stuff.
True.
But anyway, so the biggest controversial take was predates Bat Boy. Their cover photo was the autopsy photo of Ted Bundy after he was executed. Ooh. Yeah, and that was like a big fucking deal, and people were upset. Of course they were upset. Now of course Weekly World News kind of took this stance, and this was back when they were still kind of trying to be serious, but they took the stance of, well, we want people to see the face of a serial killer. Like, we want this to deter other serial killers from killing people, because if you do that and you get caught and you go through the chair, we're going to put your picture right on our cover, which I kind of don't disagree with them.
Well, yeah. I mean, can I say this? Fuck Ted Bundy.
Yes.
That guy was a piece of shit. He was human garbage. We should not be romanticizing serial killers.
No.
And, if they are put to death and you want to show, if you just want a weekend at Bernie's their ass and put it on the cover of a fucking magazine, I'm all for it. I don't care what happens to them. I know awesome. That's maybe not that controversial of a take because I don't know that there's a huge pro serial killer lobby out there, but still, like, fine. Who cares? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, totally fine. And we just weren't doing that. I mean, we weren't really, showing much dead people magazines and stuff. You'd have to go rent a videotape for that kind of thing.
Yeah, right.
This was a big deal. But of course they've had a lot of really bad takes, and we will be the first people to sit here and tell you that. I know we don't talk politics here normally. It got a little bit political in this episode, okay. But I think jabs at both ends. I mean, you made the Clinton comment, come on. um but they've definitely done a lot of shit that was terrible, like when the September 11th attacks happened. They posted a photo of the Twin Towers after they were hit with a cloud with Satan's face in the cloud, and
Ye-
stuff like that, which is really terrible. You shouldn't. But that's the thing about it, though. On the flip side of it is that Weekly World News has definitely pushed the boundaries of freedom of press, and even if you don't like it, that's really important. I know that sounds weird, but I think it's really important for us to still be able to maintain that freedom, or at least know that we have those freedoms to make goofy shit publications.
Oh,
Does
for
that make
sure.
sense?
Like,
Okay.
no, I absolutely get it. It's tough because yeah, something like just anybody trying to capitalize on 9/11 for their own gain. Obviously, it's a huge national tragedy. It's in poor taste to try to use it for your own personal gain. Um, and at the same time, you're right. Like we have to preserve free speech, and free speech is something that is increasingly under attack in this country, I think. Um, and there are a lot of people with a lot of really terrible, offensive takes out there. And look, I don't like them any more than you do. I really don't.
Yeah.
But I just go listen to or read something else
Yeah.
because the reality of the situation is when we start limiting free speech, that is a foot in the door for fascism. It just is, and we can't have it. We cannot have it. So yeah, if Weekly World News wants to do anything other than commit defamation, which is illegal, then and should be, then have at it. Like I don't have to like it, and if I don't like it, I won't buy it, and neither
Yeah.
should anybody else if they don't like it.
I prefer to live in a world where people are honest about their morals and their ethics, so that way I can make a better informed decision about whether or not I want to support them in whatever capacity.
Sure,
I think that that's important. We're both pretty liberal. We're all pretty liberal here.
that's true. Yeah, I
um, you
mentioned the
know,
Clintons because that shit is all real.
yeah,
Like
it is. No, it is.
they've been in a bunch of scandals. It
Yeah,
is what it is. I'm sorry that a sitting president received fellatio in the Oval Office. Am I not supposed to talk about it? Like it's a big deal. Like I'm not sex shaming anybody. It's really nobody's business other than that he did it at work and there's a huge power imbalance. And so if you care about stuff like that, and you should, then it's really not cool to put your intern in that position, even if she says that she was on board with it. It's still a very ethically murky situation, and very unbecoming of a U.S. president. So, just
well,
saying.
no matter what side you fall on, I mean, facts are facts, and at the end of the day,
Correct.
like, we're talking about people that are so fucking rich they have no idea what it's like to live the same life that you or I live. They have no fucking clue. No
I
clue.
mean, you're not wrong. Yeah.
And all they care about is getting richer. That's just for the most part, that's what politics is. It's terrible. That's why we don't talk about it. You just don't get it's not there's no win, right? So
Right.
here we are.
And like, so yeah,
um
I'll talk about the Clintons and laugh because I am generally a pretty liberal, like progressive guy. And if I started talking about all the shit Republicans did, I would just be mad and I'd just be angry the rest of the
right,
episode, and nobody wants that.
right. So, but anyway, back to Weekly World News. Of course, people have confronted the writers of the publication. Don't they feel bad? They're pushing hoaxes. Some people actually believe the headlines that they're seeing, and just like we tell you guys all the time, of course, we want you to trust us. Which is kind of fucked up that we're doing an episode about something that doesn't exist, but um,
Well, I think the cat's out of the bag at this point.
you know, of course, we want you to trust us, and we try to deliver you really good information. But what do we say here? Do your own research. Get your information from multiple sources. If your dumbass goes to the grocery store and you see a headline that the world's going to end, and then you go and make a stupid decision because of it, that's your fucking fault. Just saying.
Sure.
If you don't back up that resource and then see the week earlier that Elvis was out riding Nessie with Bigfoot, if you're blind to that going on, or you didn't open it up and see the fucking alien having sex with Hillary again or whatever, that's that's your problem.
Well, how
um
often do we see that in the paranormal field now, though? Because one thing that Weekly
yes.
World News was, at least for me, was an early source of like photoshopped images.
Yep.
And they did a pretty good job, I think, most of the time. And well, look at Bat Boy, like that image of Bat Boy, that iconic, freaky looking kid yelling at the camera. Um, it looks good. It does. It looks like some good special effects, if nothing else. And now look at the proliferation of not just photoshopped photos, but now artificial intelligence, and how it's spreading.
Oh yeah,
And
absolutely.
there's a link there. There is.
And what they were doing, I mean, with talking about how they were taking these other headlines and kind of clipping them and making them their own. It's like it- Weekly World News was like the open lines with Art Bell.
Mm.
Anybody could fucking call in and say anything they wanted to, and they were gonna post that shit. You know, and I mean, they were gonna write up an article about it. So like the Bigfoot is my lover story that came from somebody.
Yeah.
They didn't make that up. That came from someone who wanted to share that story and said, and they were like, okay, we'll give you a platform. And like you said, how often do we see that in the paranormal?
All the time.
All the time.
Constantly. And
Yeah.
so I think we've talked about this before, but we really can never talk about it enough. The division between entertainment and serious research and investigation. And I'm not saying that those things are necessarily mutually exclusive, because I think you can perform investigation and do research and then present it in a way that is entertaining, but not everybody bothers. And when they don't, there isn't much effort made to differentiate that, um, or to differentiate between that and something like legitimate investigation and research. And so I mean that is one of Weekly World News's contributions, I think, um is advancing the, and I'm not saying this is a good contribution, obviously, but is sort of advancing that entertainment side of it, basically inspiring other people to be like, you know what? Who cares if it's true, as long as it's getting people's attention and that's making me money? It doesn't fucking matter. Um, so thanks a lot, I guess.
And I still follow Weekly World News. Now they stopped doing print back in 2007.
Right.
But there was a Kickstarter to bring it back, which I think you know it succeeded, but they didn't officially bring it back. They just did like a one-off publication, like a print publication.
Yeah.
But they are definitely still around.
They have a
I mean,
website.
just they have a whole website. I mean, I follow them specifically on Instagram. I like to share their stuff to my stories, um, because I think it's fucking hilarious, and
It
it,
is.
it makes me laugh. And I know it's not real, and anybody that thinks it's real is silly. I've never had anybody like message me and be like, "Is that real?" You know,
Correct.
but
I the reason that because I also enjoy Weekly World News. I really, really do. And a big part of the reason is because there is no way anybody should think that shit is real.
no,
And if they do, then I don't know. God help them, because I can't. You know.
right?
Uh, but I just think that it's interesting now that I'm really thinking about it. Right, that there is this connection kind of between what they were doing early on and some of the less credible sort of entertainment style shows and websites that exist in the paranormal space right now, because I bet you that their argument back then would have been, hey, whatever, relax, we're just having fun. This shit's silly anyway. And I'll tell you, the people who don't really care if things are real now feel the same way about it. I
Yeah,
can't tell you how many times I have been accused of not being fun because I give a shit if something is made up or not.
yeah, yeah.
And I'm sorry, like that should have no place in what we do. None. Like that's crazy to me.
Yeah, and it sucks. To be honest with you, when you get into this, initially you don't understand how much of it is bullshit. Um, Not to say that everything is bullshit, because I
Of
don't.
course
That's
not.
why I'm still here. But you start learning, and it sucks to be the wet blankets. I had a friend that sent me some videos off of TikTok or something, and it's a skinwalker in Ohio, and I hate to be that asshole, but I'm like, well, actually, we can't have skinwalkers in Ohio because they can't leave the four sacred mountains or they lose their power. So they're only out in the desert area, and it sucks to be that person. But
Right.
but if I'm not going to educate people at all, and I'm just like, oh yeah, that's some skinwalker, then what the fuck am I doing
Well,
here?
it's also a folklore creature. So
Right? Yeah,
the
humans don't
idea
shapeshift.
that,
There's no science
yeah,
there.
of course not. Like it's a folklore creature. Most myths and legends, even if they are founded in a kernel of truth, have become so deformed
Yeah,
uh, throughout the generations that they don't resemble anything that they're actually based off of. That is to say, and people aren't going to like to hear this, skinwalkers aren't fucking real, you guys. Like they're another example of folklore that might be based on an actual phenomenon. We saw the same thing with like fairies, right? So if you think of the role fairies played in a country like Ireland, uh, you know, several centuries ago, you basically had them as this sort of catch-all term to explain everything from missing time to anomalous light to poltergeist phenomena that might be happening to or around people, and so yeah, you've got weird apports happening in your house. Oh well, that must have been the fairies, right? That doesn't mean it actually was fucking fairies, dude. Like what that means is people make up stories to explain things they don't have answers to.
yeah, all
And
the time.
yes, and there should be no sacred cows in this sphere, right? There is no culture whose folklore is the objectively correct folklore.
Yeah,
It all has to be taken uh, uh, for what it is, and examined respectfully, of course. Yeah, if you peel it back and there's something there, then sure, but like it's probably not shape-shifting witches, my guy.
you know. And I will say, on a personal level, skinwalkers aren't real. On a professional level, I have not seen any evidence to suggest that skinwalkers exist. Um, but at minimum, if you're going to go and say something is a skinwalker, my God, get the fucking lore correct. Jesus.
I mean, that's fair.
At the like, if you want to believe in skinwalkers, okay, that's fine, guy. You do you. Okay, some people believe in God, and I don't. But like, get the actual story right. Like, they're not in Ohio. Sorry. That drives me nuts. Damn it, drives me nuts. And that's just nitpicky bullshit. And I won't get into it, but because I guess
Sure.
I already did. But
I mean, we definitely just covered it. Yeah.
yeah,
So
totally.
you could address your hate mail to Ashley Hilt at on Wednesdays. We talk weird.
Let me know all about it. Again, if you want to believe in whatever you believe in, I don't give a fuck. But
It's
you
fine.
know, at the end of the day, our job is to make some sense out of the nonsense that is paranormal, and so we're going to be the wet blanket sometimes, and but that doesn't mean there's no value in entertainment. Again, coming from two people that still enjoy weekly world news. you know?
True. Yeah, it
Um,
just needs to be upfront about it. Like everybody knows professional wrestling is choreographed, right? Like the matches are decided ahead of time, all of that, That doesn't make it any less fun to watch. It's still
yeah,
popular, and that's great. But there aren't a lot of people going around thinking that it's something it isn't, And the same could be said for Weekly World News. It's similar to pro wrestling in that respect, where no reasonable person is going to think that this is real.
yeah, and we keep seeing replicas of basically weekly world news, happening over and over again. But not really. I mean, weekly world news definitely jumps the shark, and so therefore it's obvious that what they're reporting isn't happening, right? And no timeline did Taylor Swift have a Bat Boy baby. Um, like there's no question, or there shouldn't be
Sure.
any question about whether or not that's legit, because it's not. But like, one news source that people will send to me a lot is the Daily Star. I'm sure, Tobias, you've come across the Daily Star at least once so far.
Okay. Yeah.
And it is it is like a modern day weekly world news, but worse, because people see it as like a legitimate news source, and they do exactly what Weekly World News started doing initially to kind of get where they are now. And that was kind of just clipping things from different weird articles and expanding on it and making it even weirder than what it is. And sometimes they do report stories that are going like on mainstream news media. Like, I'm sure this Indiana UFO flap that's going on, I'm sure that's there, right? But then it's alongside several other publications that are like clearly just not fucking real.
Right.
um and it gets annoying, and especially in this day and age, with the internet, with AI, with deep fakes, trying to, on top of make sense of what people are reporting, trying to decipher the bullshit from the potential reality, which is exhausting and ends up being, frankly, most of the job. And that's hard. It's hard to gather actual data when you have so much bullshit in your pool, which sucks, just lamenting that.
It
But
does.
it's okay sometimes, and it's okay if you're obvious about it. I think that's fun. Clearly here we are obvious about the fact that like Bat Boy's not a thing, but it sure
Oh, he's a
felt
thing.
good.
He's just not real.
Yes, exactly. It was nice. It was nice for me, for us to be able to kind of take a break from deciphering bullshit and just be like, look, I'm going to research some bullshit here and share it on the show.
Yeah. Some obvious fiction that's not pretending to be anything else.
Yeah. was it was kind of a good relief. And in a month like October, obviously Bat Boy is, I think, means a lot to all of us, right? He's definitely a very fun mascot. We all love Bat Boy. And thought it'd be fun to kind of cover that story, but also kind of show how Bat Boy influences things today, or at least Weekly World News tends to influence things today. Clearly, there's money in that type of publication, um, for a long time anyway, because like I said, they stopped in 2007. But
Sure. Yeah, I mean, print media was dying then
yeah,
anyway. It has
yeah,
been for, well, ever since, obviously, pretty much the entirety of this century so far.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, no, I think that it is important to recognize the influence of things like Weekly World News. And I would encourage anybody who likes this stuff um, to be a fan of it. Like it's okay to be a fan of that, because I think it makes you a better critical thinker. I know, but just hear me out. Because being a fan of something like Weekly World News allows you, or I guess helps you, if nothing else, recognize the influence of biased narratives as they appear in media. Like I think that it asks you to question the source in a way that is just generally helpful and everybody should be doing. So,
yeah.
if you're reading Weekly World News, you're like, okay, well, obviously Bat Boy isn't real. Maybe then you see a story of, I don't know, a skinwalker in Ohio or something, and you go, okay, well, that seems very unlikely. Maybe I should start asking questions. Like I know that there are people who just make things up for fun. I know that there are publications that have no problem just running whatever. Maybe I should go ahead and question this. Maybe this isn't real. So yeah, like being a fan of things that are obviously poking fun at the paranormal and obvious satire, I think can be healthy. I think it asks you to question things, and I think it asks you to not take this stuff so seriously all the time, which is good for everybody.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Um, like you said, it's totally fine to be a fan of this type of thing. And I'll be honest with you. I think that you know, everybody else talks about how cool they were when they were a kid, and by cool I mean really nerdy and weird. And how you guys all watch these cool weird shows growing up, and I didn't have that. But let me tell you what I did have: the Blair Witch Project. And I know this seems like it's going in a weird direction, but I promise it pans out somewhere. Man, that was a big deal, right? Back in the day. You
It
didn't
was,
know.
yeah.
You didn't know if it was real or not. They were advertising it as real. And we didn't really have a lot of resources. I mean, they made that whole mockumentary talking about, and but we didn't know it was fake, right? Talking about all the lore and the real stories behind it, even down to the website. They had a whole website, and let me tell you, I was a kid with the internet at that time, and man, I was on the website reading fucking, um, court transcripts of Rustin Parr, who didn't even exist. But it made me dig into it, because I became really kind of fascinated with it. Well, how the hell could something like this be shown in a movie theater? Like, that's fucking horrible and tragic. But that was like the first time I ever remember researching anything, because it just really brought it out. I mean, of course, then I found out it was fake. I kind of dropped the veil a little bit, and instead of being like, well, shit, that sucks that that's not real. I'm so disappointed now. It just kind of gave me a thirst for knowledge at that point. It kind of drove me to want to research other things. And I think that that's okay too. That's why I say it all the time. If you are somebody that likes the paranormal TV shows, or, the podcasts with the bullshit, or whatever it is. If you are very serious about these topics, then you are going to do the work at the end of the day. You're going to end up putting that in. And so I don't mind it so much, because otherwise, if you wouldn't have been introduced to it otherwise, unless you saw Zach Baggins and you fell in love with him on TV, that's totally legit. I think that's fine. Um, and then you can still, it didn't make me enjoy the Blair Witch any less. It makes me nostalgic for that time where, I thought it was real, which is probably weird. I don't know.
No, I think that you are basically saying the same thing that I was. And that
Yes.
is, there is value in parody, there is value in satire. Um and the types of entertainment we're talking about aren't hoaxes. They're not. Weekly World News is not a hoax. The Blair Witch Project was not a hoax. They are works of art. Um, and they don't pretend to be anything else, really. And like I said, there's value in that. I do think that they inspire people to be interested in weird subjects maybe they wouldn't otherwise be interested in. I do think that they teach people to be better critical thinkers, And I do think that they help us to relax a little bit and not always necessarily take this all so damn seriously, which I got to tell you is really good for my mental health and something that I absolutely need. So, yeah, there's a lot of upside.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a very important publication, not just for its time, but even now, of course, especially with the nostalgia glasses on. It feels good to see those stupid headlines. I think I shared one the other day about, who knows what it was about. I don't know. I don't even know. They're so ridiculous. I share them a lot. I really like them. Sometimes that's what I'll do when I trying to fall asleep. I know you shouldn't be on your phone, but like I'll scroll the fucking Weekly World News headlines just cause.
Nice.
Because eventually it helps. But yeah, there definitely is some value there, and I appreciate it for what it is. And you're right. There's a big difference between outright hoaxing and just trying to be entertaining, and it can be a very thin line. Um, and at some points, you have to kind of make sure that you draw that line, so that way maybe you're not fooling people. But it's also, again, not on you as a content creator as well to make sure that people are doing their homework. It's a hard one. It takes a village.
It does. My issue, where the line is for me, is when people are hmm, how do I guess how do I want to say this, because when people are actively portraying themselves as being serious researchers and investigators, and they're really just entertainers. Now, I don't have a problem with you being an entertainer. I think that's great. I just spent like 10 minutes talking about how great I think entertainment is. But you have to roll credits at some point, right? Like, you have to get to the end of the joke. You have to, you have to tell the damn punchline. And there are people pretending to be investigators and researchers who never do. And that's when it becomes problematic, because it's not obvious, and it's clearly not entertainment in the way that Weekly World News is, because it's not an obvious parody. It's not obvious satire or anything. Um, and so people do get fooled, and that's not their fault. And that is problematic.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. And, I think that we should, of course, do better as a community of kind of drawing the line also. That way we are not, well, like I said, promoting people with morals and ethics that we don't agree with. That's the best way that you can, kind of make decisions and let people know that what they're doing is not okay is by you drawing the line and going, I can't support this any further.
Right.
And that's the only way we can really combat that. Um, but of course you guys already know that because you listen to the best damn podcast that there is on these topics. So I don't have to tell you smart people what to do and what not to do. You already know. So, but anyway, Halloween is definitely a great time of year, a great time for obviously tricks and treats. I was hoping to make sure that you guys got a little bit of both in this episode, and we could have talked about witches this week, but we'll save that for a more serious time.
That's, I mean, probably sometime where I am not uh like hacking my lungs up and still foggy from my cold would be best.
That's okay. So before I close out, I guess, Tobias, do you have anything else to say about Bat Boy, about Weekly World News, about parody publications, or
Oh
anything to
boy.
that?
Uh I you know, I really did grow up with Bat Boy. And one of the earliest mail-in things I ever did was you could cut out a little order form from the back of Weekly World News and you could get t-shirts. You could order t-shirts. You sent them a check with his order form, they mailed you t-shirts. And so I had two. I had one and these were both covers of Weekly World News. I had one that was the headline was "Woman Killed by Fur Coat," and it was a rich woman's fur coat that came to life and killed her. She had it coming. And it was Bat Boy found in cave because of course it was, because it was fucking Bat Boy. So to say that Weekly World News and Bat Boy have had an influence on my life, like, is no joke. Like, they really have. From a pop culture standpoint, this has been a big deal for me. So I'm glad we got to talk about it, and I'm glad it wasn't really negative, because I do think that there's some value in that. And I hope that if anybody gets anything out of what I'm going to assume has been a long, rambling, cough syrup fueled nightmare of a podcast, it is that we need parody, we need satire, and we need entertainment. We just have to be able to recognize them and appreciate them for what they are, because we also need serious investigation and research too.
Yeah. And I will say this type of episode is definitely, for you guys, for the fans. And I know that sounds weird, but like as a podcaster, one thing when I go into every episode, believe it or not, I imagine that it's the very first time that somebody's ever listening to this show. And this one, of course, is not typical of what on Wednesdays We Talk Weird would would encompass. Hey, if it is your first show, thanks for hanging on with us and being here. And you should go listen to the other ones. It's a great episode, but typically we're not very serious. We fucking spent 30% of the Bigfoot episode talking about its penis. But
That was serious scientific research.
no, it really was.
Nobody
Like,
ever talks about Bigfoot's genitalia, but okay, it's a primate species, and why aren't people seeing it? Well, it's got to be one of those weird ape dicks like chimps have, where it's like an innie, like a dog. So, yeah, science. Look it up.
I forgot to mention that was Bigfoot was Bat Boy's running mate. That was his vice president. Yeah.
Also forgot to mention it. So
And
what a
that's
pair. I'm kind of
I mean,
surprised. I would have thought Bigfoot would have headlined that ticket just based on experience, but I
it's
guess
because
not.
photos of his tiny wiener got out, and people were like, "Oh, poor."
Yeah.
They're like, "Never mind."
We need a president with a big old, like, who can really hang dog, No tiny, like, lipstick dick president. Not for America.
No, absolutely not. Can you imagine him still trying to sit down and have a conversation with Putin? No, that's not going to happen. Anyway, uh, I'm trying to do fucking negotiations with anybody, and his wiener pops out, and they're like, "What the fuck is that? Get out of
Right?
here!"
Like,
He's at the
excuse me,
UN.
ma'am, you dropped your lipstick. Oh, that's your dick? Good lord.
You know the way. So I'll tell you, I reached out to Weekly World News, and initially they seemed very interested in coming on the show and doing this bit with us.
Oh, nice.
But then they gave me like further contact information and then never wrote back. But I'll tell you what some of my pitch was that we're a comedy podcast, but we do take the topics we talk about seriously, but in a comedic way. And in parentheses, I was like, have you ever met anybody who was researching primate penises to talk about what Bigfoot's dick might look like? Because I sure have done that. Um,
Hmm,
because that's a true story.
it is.
We did that here.
We,
Um,
yeah, we did.
but these types of topics, these holiday specials, everybody's busy right now. We're both very busy in these types of months, and we just kind of wanted to do something that took it easy and was fun and didn't take itself too seriously, and we can have that here also. That's the circle that I'm bringing this back into the full circle. We can also have fun here.
We
We're
can.
allowed to do that, and that doesn't invalidate the fact that we do our research, and it shouldn't invalidate anybody else that does it either. Except when you then go and take that fun and you make it something it's not. So don't do that. Um, just saying. So anyway, with that being said, we will definitely, see you guys back here. It's getting into the end of the year for us. We're gonna at the end of the year, not now. I know we did take a break last week. Fuck it, it happens. Things happen. That's fine. But we are taking a 2-week break at Christmas time, which is okay. But before that happens, we've got a lot of fun topics. We've got a fucking awesome guest coming on in the next couple weeks. I'm so excited for that. And you guys will learn some stuff. So super exciting. But anyway, with that being said, guys, we'll see you back here next Wednesday.